AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com. Unmuted there. Welcome, everybody, to our daily gun show. No, wait, hold on. This is our Ask Gun Questions show. Got Gizzard Gary joining us today. Thanks for joining us, Gizzard. Oh, puppy's waking up. Co-host decided to join us. So I figured out that if you take this thing, which blows air out of here when it makes that noise, and you put it up to him, it bothers him. So this is my new way to bother the co-host. All right, we'll cut that. So welcome. Got links out to Tony and Clover. We'll see if they join us or not. But on Saturdays, we get together and answer gun questions. We've got a database, as the beginning of the intro said there, that collects the questions that people have asked literally over the years. And on Saturdays, we get together and answer them, not as some sort of all-knowing whatever, just as some old guys who've been around guns for a long time. And hopefully offer some, at least if not answers, direction to find the answers. I can't say I know everything, but I can been around long enough to have bumped into a lot of stuff. So I'm opening up the database here as we talk, and the puppy co-host is waking up from his nap. He was asleep all night, and then he went potty, and then he ate some food, and then he's taken, of course, his nap after that. That was a lot of work for him. So he's now waking up from that nap. Soon he'll probably want to go outside. So if Tony and Clover don't show, we'll see how long the show goes. So we'll answer questions here. Do we have a... See, I can't get my monitor to work. I don't know what's happening with this monitor over here. Just went out this morning, and I'm trying to... No, it's still identified. So something wrong with the cord, probably. So we lost monitor over here. Otherwise, I could bring the... list up behind there, behind the puppy, but we got a big list here. If I can figure out how to get scrolled down the list. Looks like we've even gotten a question this month. I'll see if I can address that one then, since that one's fairly recent. All right, so welcome to everybody that's joining us live, by the way. We do this mostly as a podcast. Most of our viewers or listeners, I guess, are podcast form, but we do this live on the YouTube. I enjoyed the interactive nature of the internet, so I do this stuff live instead of recording it and scripting it. It would be a lot more professional. It'd probably be a better finished product, but I'm more about the experience here live, and that of course gives everybody who joins us the opportunity to ask questions and be part of the show. Feel free. Again, we're not somehow experts here. We're just old people that I'm an old guy that's just been around for a while. Since some of this stuff is common knowledge, it's not hard to know it. And then others are more difficult. Like I say, I can point people in a direction, perhaps. So it starts out with, it's a long one. I recently purchased a DPMS Recon Gen 2. So that's a make and model of a AR, probably. I noticed the lower receiver says multi, which I assume is because the lower can accept 308 as well as 7.62. However, the barrel stands 7.651 NATO, and 308 has a higher pressure for one. Generally, should fire a 308 through a 7. My question is, says barrel stamp says 7.2, then can I write through it, or do I need just a 308 barrel? Both. I'm not clear as to why they. It's a pretty common question. I suspect if people have experienced that dilemma. So when we look at an AR-15, the way it works, it's a receiver receiver with the upper receiver that has the barrel. And even though those are called receivers, the ATF is always considered the bottom part, the receiver that he's looking right now. That the serialized part, and that have a caliber on it per rules that were created in 1968 at the federal. So that's why it says multi, because it has to say something on it. And that's the rule created by the government. However, than that, most guns that are built, the person who's building it, the machine, they're going to want you to, just like a car says, to use diesel or regular gas. There doesn't have to be a law for that. It's just the kind of thing that people are going to do with the machine so that people know how to work it. So it's an unnecessary law, but it is a law that started in 1968. So that's why the bottom even has a number on it. Now it says multi because on an AR-15 style rifle, where the upper and lower are two different parts, the potential is that you could have multiple tops to put on that bottom. And in that case, the receiver is attempting to let you know that it's the form factor of the 308-762. So the chamber length and the width of the receiver is different than a smaller caliber, like a 5.56 caliber, the standard caliber AR would have a smaller receiver on it. So basically, the lower is required to tell you the caliber, and since it knows it could potentially have different calibers of upper on it, it's giving you that multi, and then that 308/762. So that's why the lower says that. Again, the lower is, well, it's either bought as a whole rifle or you bought it separately, but either way, it has to have that certain text on it per law. But either way, it's going to be, mated with an upper, and that upper is going to be some caliber. So in reality, there's probably other calibers that now run through that size AR platform. I'm not a big AR person really, and I'm definitely not a big 308 AR caliber person. But just like you can put 300 blackout and all kinds of other calibers through the 5.56 AR platform, you can probably put other calibers through the 308. Clover was here, he'd probably have them off the top of his head. And Tony, I don't know if he's shot those things either. Maybe seen him at SHOT Show or something, or one of the events. But anyway, you can, the lower's never going to know what the upper is, and in reality it doesn't even matter, because the lower is just there to hold the trigger group up to the upper, and to hold the magazine up to the upper, and hold a shoulder stock onto it or whatever it has. So otherwise the receiver could care less. It doesn't interface with the bullet at all. It just holds a trigger up behind the bolt. So the lower is just going to know what it knows, and that's why it's going to say 308. So you can't go by the lower. The long story short, you can't go by the lower. Now the barrel is a different story. I don't think there's any law about barrels, period. I don't think there's any laws other than length of barrel. There's really no, and maybe threading on barrel. Okay, so there's two laws about barrel: the length of barrel and if there's threads on it. And those, of course, are ridiculous laws created by people who are ignorant, right? Unaware of how guns operate. So, they don't realize how guns operate. They're either influenced by emotion or fiction on what makes a gun lethal or more dangerous, more lethal or more dangerous. And that's why we have laws about barrel length. And as far as this threading, they're scared of silent guns, which don't exist. So they're scared of silencers, and they think that the only reason for threads on the end of a barrel would be to suppress it. And again, that fear and ignorance led to prohibitions in a couple of states, just a few. So anyway, aside from those issues, nobody cares about barrels. Well, okay, I should preface that with they care about importing barrels. So aside from those issues, there's very little issue about barrels. But like anybody, the manufacturer of the barrel is not an idiot, and they want you to be able to use the barrel, right? Otherwise it'd be useless. So they put they stamp it with their name and their model number probably, or whatever, and then the caliber. So that's the number you care about. Long story short, the number on the barrel is all that matters. And with an AR, you can put different calibers into it. It's one of the benefits of that platform. One of the good characteristics of that platform is you can put any caliber, pretty much any caliber that'll fit in the chamber or fit in the magazine. And people put different magazines in there if they have to. but anything that'll fit through the receivers, you can use as the to shoot the gun. So that means you can put different barrels on it, and the fact that the barrels just insert and then tighten on with or attach and hold on with just a nut, a thing that you could literally use one wrench or sometimes no tools at all, lends itself to being able to swap calibers. So someone could buy one rifle, the serialized part being the receiver, one rifle, and then buy multiple uppers for it, and they fit on with no tools, and then swapping out the magazine to match the barrel caliber. You could have, I don't know, 14, 15 guns, calibers running out of one AR. So it's a good question. I did a long answer to it because nobody else here to stop me from going on and on. But essentially, the answer to the question is always go by the barrel. And I don't know, the 308-762, I don't shoot them enough to know how big an issue that is. I've just always shot what matches and not tried to push it. Although, I don't know, when I was a kid, I might have pushed it because I don't think there's that big a difference, but I'm not sure. I don't shoot them enough. And if I did push it, it was in a bolt action, not an AR. So I'll leave that one for one of those guys to answer in the future. Excuse me. So if you want to answer or ask a question, feel free. I'll say hey to the people that are joining us live. Snobs joining us first. Gunpowder Beauty is out there. Welcome. John Z. Hope everything's doing good on that end of the internet. Happy Saturday to you as well. Playnut is out there. And then it looks like Mike White just also joined in. Thanks much for everyone's support, especially Mike helping out. Much appreciated. We are here to chat about gun answers to gun questions. And like I say, we've been getting questions in. Let's see, in this database, we're down to 900 questions. And this is by no means the first database. This one started in 2017. And we probably started this one, about a year into this show, and probably incorporated these set of questions through the show. It'd be neat. Maybe I should go back and pull out a bunch of these questions and turn them into something like some sort of best questions of the 2006 to 18 or something, or the best questions of the 2000s. But let's dig in. Unless anybody has any questions here, feel free to ask them. We'll go to the next one that came in back in November. Is overpenetration a fact or a myth? Is there any evidence that overpenetration has ever happened in citizen defense use? I mean, obviously, there's that's a big question. There's no way to know every situation or anything, but I'm sure, yes, it must have happened. I'm just assuming that over the amount of time we're talking here, which is hundreds of years, yes, there must have been situations. Overpenetration is when a bullet passes through something. So bullets coming along, the puppy's, hits right through this blubber on the puppy, goes right through, doesn't even slow down because of all this blubber, doesn't even slow down the bullet, goes right through him. And now it hits something important right behind him. So, if that happens with a bad guy, one, it's ineffective. The bad guy's probably not going to be slowed down too much by that. But then, of course, as Masada Ayub will say, there's a lawyer attached to each bullet, which is a great way of picturing the responsibility and consequences every time you pull a trigger in the world, right? So, that's definitely an issue, and there's ways to mitigate it, of course, but that's I guess just to answer the question, yeah, can definitely, and it must have happened. I mean, I can't cite evidence. I don't follow that kind of stuff, and I don't follow that kind of stuff. And if I did, I don't have the kind of brain that can remember instances or anything. But I'm just going with the laws of odds or whatever, that it must have happened. And I don't know. You feel free to answer questions. This is a participatory show after all, but I don't adjust my choices. I go with 45 ACP because it has a long history of success. One or two failures, what are you going to do? You can't, there's no round that's perfect. Well, 40 Smith and Wesson is pretty good, but there's no round that's perfect, and so that to have that bar of level of requirement is unrealistic. So the next question is, how are car arms and the religious group Moonies related? It's a question. So as far as I understand it, the Moonies were Reverend Sun Young Moon or something like that, and that uh, dude had a kid, or had a bunch of kids probably, and he had one of his kids uh, started Car Arms, and that's the guy who runs Car Arms. So that's how they're related. The guy who started the Moonies, which is a religion, a cult. I don't know if it's a cult or a religion. When I grew up, it was considered a cult. So I don't know if it is or not, but I think it's a religion where people take their money and give it all to the church or something. I'm not sure. But back in the olden days, that was, there was a lot of talk about it. And then you don't hear anything about it since, I can't remember. I don't even remember, like since the 80s or something is probably the last time I heard about it. And then Car Arms comes along, and probably around mid 2000s, somewhere in there, the early 2000s, people started saying, "Oh, here's the story. That guy is the son of the Reverend Sun Young Moon, or whatever his name is." So yeah, that's how they're related. And now Car Arms owns Magnum Research and Thompson. So it's a conglomerate at this point. It's not even just a single company anymore. Ugh. The Mauser action and influenced the 1903. Yeah, I don't know that one. I've heard that story before, but um, well, Playnut is saying I didn't know a Mooney founded Car Arms. See, I don't know. I'm. You could say that, but I think he also was kind of rebelling from his dad. That was the story back in the day. So I don't know if he's still the same as his dad, like the same religion. I don't know their religion and stuff, but I don't know if it's the same as his dad or not. I mean, they don't present it as like the church created Car Arms or nothing like that. I don't think it's ever been presented that way. Getting back to the Mauser and the Springfield, like I say, I've probably heard this a few times, and there's some super lame channels out there that probably go on and on about this. The information is interesting. The people who present it are assholes, so they're pretty lame usually. But I don't know. That's you're asking the wrong people for that one. So I'm going to suggest you probably need to watch some kind of documentary, probably. What do you say, puppy? Oh, puppy's upset. He's stretching. It's hard to get him stretching because that's the only time he gets up and gets kind of tall. See, now he'll go back to sleeping. He was sick of the way that he was sitting before. It's uncomfortable. This is much more comfortable. Let's see. What is a trapdoor carbine? And are they still made? No, they're not still made. So trapdoor carbine is the black powder muzzle loaders. Back in the Civil War, we had tons of them, and then bullets came along, or at least cartridges came along. The first cartridges were a wad of lead with some powder behind it, sort of like a roll your own cigarette, where the bullet was the filter and the lead was the tobacco. They would roll a paper cartridge like that, or probably some people would sit around rolling paper cartridges and they'd put them in a box. And eventually they were like, this paper is a pretty dumb idea. It was clever at first, but it's pretty fragile, right? So it's a pretty dumb idea for war, at least. And that's when they decided, some guy in Europe, I think, decided to wrap it in brass. I don't want to give credit where it's not due, so I don't remember. I don't know if that's one of ours, wrapping the cartridge in brass or not. So eventually we started taking the caps, putting them in the back of the brass case, and there you got primers and everything like that. So the trapdoors were I think it was when you still had paper cartridges, and paper cartridges were so much better than muzzle loading, but there was a way to pour the powder in and then cram the bullet in, but you're still muzzle loading and it is a pain in the ass. So somebody decided, let's take a hacksaw, chop the back end off of the barrel, maybe 6 inches or 4 inches. I forget how much it was. And then, not 6 inches, probably 3 to 4 inches. I don't remember. And then create like an action. So when you move the trigger guard, this action engages, and now you can put in this paper cartridge, move the trigger guard and close the action, and use the same hammer and trigger, just now put in a little lever that I forget how they ignited those things. Did they still use caps? They may have still used percussion caps. I can't remember. On a trapdoor, you might still use percussion caps. Do you? No, I think I'm thinking of a gun in between. I think the trapdoors actually had a cartridge, right? So they just had a mechanism, essentially like a little teeter-totter thing, that you'd throw the hammer or pull the trigger, the hammer would drop, but now a mechanism would shoot the primer. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were just cartridges. I've shot, no, they're regular cartridges. So essentially they were muzzle loaders. They may have had to ream the barrels out to make them a real cartridge or a real diameter instead of the vague diameters they had been after been through the Civil War or whatever. And so essentially they're retrofits of old muzzle loaders to turn them into single shot cartridge guns. And they're pretty cool. There's a lot of recoil. They're super heavy, but you've got a big cartridge, so you're still getting a lot of recoil from them. And they're not necessarily super accurate. I'm sure some of them can be, but they're interesting guns. I grew up shooting them for sure. And now that I'm remembering more, I'm pretty sure they are just cartridges. But there was one kind of an intermediate one where they were using that paper stuff. The next question. And feel free to participate. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this thing up at 1:30. I don't like to just ramble. And if it's not, nobody's participating, I'm just going to end it. The next one is, why is there a 10-day wait? And thanks everybody for posting these questions too, because that's really the point, is so that we can address them and kind of stir things up. Sometimes like the car story, like just people don't hear about these things unless you're hanging out with a lot of gun people and you overhear something, or it comes up in the news. So this is an opportunity to kind of stir things up and bring up some old information or some stuff that maybe is taken for granted or people don't bring it up enough. So 500 Magnum joining in, welcome. So why is there a 10-day waiting period for guns in some states? Is there any data behind that practice? I'd like to hear the origin reasoning for it, but no, it's to demonize the gun pretty much and to marginalize the gun owner. If you consider guns only violent, then they're a vice. They're something that are dangerous, and you're only allowed to own them because some dumbasses back in the day accidentally gave you the quote unquote right, and we haven't changed that yet. Like, that's how people think. So the idea that guns are a bad thing, it's like, oh, why would you want to buy poison? Well, you only want to buy poison to kill something. So there's only one use for any poison, and that's to kill something. If anybody who would want to do that is probably crazy with rage. So what we'll do is make them cool down for 10 days. I think there was also probably a part of it was we need to do a background check. Like, we have to make sure this person's vetted by the government. We need to have a department of the government that does background checks on people, not people that drive, because that's not a big deal. That's only a 6,000-pound thing that can go 100 miles an hour. And there's no bumpers at all. Like, there's nothing stopping you from just tearing through people in a parking lot or whatever. Like, that never happens. So that, you don't have to worry about cars. Anything else, poison, no problem. But for guns, that's where we have to worry about it. So there's no justification for it other than they're trying to penalize gun owners, make it onerous to become a gun owner, to possess a gun, and to give you the scarlet letter, you have to go through this extra hurdles to exercise that right. And because a bunch of jerks, well, I shouldn't say that, a bunch of lazy people watched it happen and didn't resist it when it was being implemented, they've allowed that practice to seep into like a fungus mold. Well, fungus are good, but like a mold to, just infest a couple of states. And those states now suggest that because it's been precedent for so long that it's necessary or that it does something, and no one questions it. Do you want to get mad at the national level organizations for not constantly push pressure against these silly things that do nothing but marginalize? Don't be mad at those organizations. Maybe ask them why they don't. They got millions of dollars and they got time to waste on all kinds of dumb shit. Why don't we have consistent campaigns to remove things like 10-day waiting periods? That's a great question. Why aren't there national level organizations that exist to get rid of this? It seems like a lot of bureaucracy that gets paid for by taxpayers that's doing nothing except, again, like creating this impression that guns are uniquely so dangerous that anyone that would want to own them is probably a criminal, and let's make sure they're not by spending a bunch of taxpayer money to have an entire section of the bureaucracy just to do these background checks on people with no challenge to whether or not they're effective or whether or not they're efficient, like with their money, or whether or not any crimes are being solved or any crimes are being prevented. But and if there's such a great idea, how come we don't have them for why do you get to buy a boat? Why do you just get to drive a boat around in our water? That water's owned by the community, right? Why do you get to drive a boat around our water without some kind of a background check? And why would you even want to drive a boat around? What the hell? And why would you want to have so much water in your backyard? You should have a background check. A pool is lethal. Birds will fall into a pool and die. This little puppy fall into a pool and drown. That's the kind of horrible person that would want a pool in their backyard. It's essentially a death trap in their backyard. And you're allowed to have a pool without any kind of background check? What kind of psychopath would even want to put a lake in their backyard? What kind of power trip are you on that you need a lake in your backyard? Those sons of bitches should have background checks, right? Why, if they're so effective, why don't we have background checks for everything? Why aren't you? And we have a whole background check system. We're paying for this whole system to do background checks. Why don't we use it for vehicles? Oh, you want a big vehicle? You want a convertible? A motorcycle can get away from police cars. You shouldn't be able to just own a motorcycle that can get away from police cars. You can go between traffic. You can go upstairs. I've seen movies. Motorcycles can jump off of bridges onto barges and then jump off the barge onto a ramp and get away from police cars. That kind of reckless, dangerous vehicle, you should have to have a background check, right? Because background checks are so effective. So let's challenge that shit. It's ridiculous. So you can just watch what's going on in the world, or you can start changing some shit. I say let's challenge people. Why don't we get rid of these stupid ass background checks? Great question. Thanks for asking that one. Mike says the usual fearmongers are all harping that we are headed into a powder shortage, which will cause ammo shortage. Do you have any thoughts on this one? Yeah, it's fake. It may or may not be true, but I mean, here's the thing. You should, as a gun owner, own at least 1,000 rounds for every caliber you have and at least 10,000 rounds for every person that lives in your house. Some people are going to go, oh, blah, blah, blah. Well, don't listen to them. Here's how it works. You ever had, I don't know, peanuts that you liked or some kind of snack food that you liked, and then it quit being made, and then they came back again, or somebody else made a version of it. In that meantime, you'd like to have your snack treat still, right? You'd like to have those salted peanuts or whatever. So just buy a shit ton of them. As long as they don't go bad, as long as you can store them in a place that they're not going to spoil, or they're not going to, something else isn't going to happen to them that makes them inedible. Buy as many as you want. And then when there's a problem, there's some kind of shortage or whatever, there's some kind of issue with the supply line. You think people in Alaska who live off the grid or whatever, they only buy like one package of Doritos and they go into town and buy another package of Doritos for 200 miles a trip? No, they're buying a shit ton, right? So if you don't apply that to ammo, then I'm sorry no one told you that, but you should own 1,000 rounds for every gun you own and 10,000 rounds for every person in the house. So that means if you only have one gun, then you go own 10,000 rounds for it. Oh, that's sad. Oh, I don't want to spend that much money. All right, well, then get all worried every time the ammo goes up and down. I can't even count anymore. I've tried to do it in past shows, but it's not really that interesting to me, but it's necessary every once in a while to think about how often there's ammo shortages. But it's not that there's ammo shortages, it's that ammo fluctuates. There are times when there's no problem with ammo, but there's almost just as many times when ammo is an issue. So the way that you deal with that is you own your own ammo. You don't have to worry about other people. There's plenty of times when it's plentiful, You should have been buying ammo. And it's a mean thing to say if you don't have ammo and this is your first time going through the cycle. But here's the good news. It's a freaking cycle. So 6 months from now or 6 years from now or 6 days from now, everyone's going to calm down about this. Trust me, some new grip angle will be imported from some country that everyone will start talking about, and or some new caliber will come out and everyone will start talking about it. And, in the background, something will change and all of a sudden the supply lines are open again. And no one will talk about that. 1 or 2 people might go, oh, it's nice to see ammo back again. But most people just take it for granted and then move on. Well, instead of taking it for granted, set an alarm clock. And 2 months after ammo is plentiful again, buy it. Every time you go to a gun show, buy it. Oh, I don't go to gun shows. Too bad for you. You should be going to gun shows. Then every time you go to a gun show, you dollar cost ammo into that. You buy 2 or 3 boxes of ammo from somebody at a gun show. Guess what happens? You have a ton of ammo after a while, and now you don't care about ammo shortages. So the usual fear mongers, definitely there's people with a very limited deck, like a very limited list of things that they can talk about, and ammo shortages is one of their winners. Like they make money every time they talk about that one. So you're definitely going to see that one come up. If you pay attention, if you're watching over time, there's people that'll keep playing that card. And if nobody else plays the card, they'll just take it back and act like they never played it. But there's constantly people, oh, there's an ammo shortage. Oh, there's a shortage on primers. Oh, there's a powder shortage. Oh, I can't buy lead. Oh, whatever. Oh, there's a stop and hunting. Oh, whatever. And it's just a situation where once a bunch of people play that card, then everybody's playing it for a couple of weeks. We do have ammo shortages. I don't want to dismiss it, but there's ways to, in a capitalist society, we should understand the way things work, the cycles, and plan accordingly. So if you're listening to this on the side of the cycle where you're out of ammo or you don't have any yet, guess what? Do you think anybody got on the ride full of ammo? Like back in the old days, they used to give us 7,000 rounds of ammo and go, here, don't squander it. No, we all got into the game with like, shit, I don't have enough ammo. Oh, what's happening? Riots? Oh, wait, you think riots just started happening? Or have riots happened about every 10 years or so throughout time, throughout the history of our country at least? Because as we grow and evolve, not everybody's on the same track. And at times those different cycles have been pretty disruptive, and we have had some times of violence. You don't think people have stockpiled ammo during those times? Not out of hate or violence, but out of understanding that commodities that are vital need to be purchased when they're plentiful. Okay, I've been ranting. Tony's joining us. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, what's up, man? Sorry about that. So I was just listening to your rant.
Okay, so you got the question. Then now you can take over. I'm tapping out.
Yeah, dude. 100%. It's fear mongers all over again. You wait this out and just start buying stuff on your own. Put it together. Do not fall for the okey doke. You were like, yeah, some of the same people push the same narrative all the time. It's always panic. It's always fear-based. And I actually follow a channel that I don't even watch their videos. I just read their thumbnails and laugh at them. Like, and I'm talking about I followed the guy for like 5 years and he's never had good news. Every thumbnail, every headline, the time is now, war is on, America's about to fall. And I'm like, I won't even watch your videos, dude. I just laugh at you.
Yeah, and it's always like, this is the justification. Like, here it is. And it's like, how do you even put this in the same sentence when you've said this like 4 times? Like,
U.S. warships. The last one is like, U.S. warships are under attack. Here it is. I'm like, dude, you've never been right. Like, I guess you can say the sky is falling, and then the day the sky falls, you can talk about how right you are. I guess. But truthfully, stop. Most of your YouTubers aren't well thought out. Excuse me, how do I put it? Many of them aren't well thought out, all right? They jump on the fad. They say what everybody else is saying. and they have nothing to really back it up with. Some are just in this for the business of selling stuff for whoever supports them, or in the hope that someone will become a sponsor for them. I found that people like G Webs, and I'm gonna say even the guys on our show, the review podcast, we're not gonna stroke anybody because no one pays you enough, in my opinion, to give up your integrity. Sorry. I mean, I probably do have a price, but none of these people come even close. Want a free gun? Get out of here. There's nothing that this just ridiculous. So yeah, don't fall for the okie doke. Take your time. This is a cycle. Figure out who you're going to buy from. Figure out how much you can actually afford to buy on a box of ammo. And what are you buying anyway? And what do you plan on happening? Are you planning on doing some training? Then yeah, you're going to need probably for a decent training class that's one day, you'll probably need 500 rounds or so. If you're going to do a couple of those a year, yeah, getting together and buying a case of ammo in one shot when the prices go down makes more sense financially between the shipping costs and the cost of a box of 50 versus 1,000. The cost per round, you'll come out better with 1,000 if you can save it up. If you can't, man, buy that box of 50 every week, every other week on a payday just for that training class you plan on taking in 2024. That way, right before training class, you don't get hit with a bill for 500 rounds of ammo, plus you have to pay for the training class, plus you might have to take a day off work. Don't let that build up. Plan ahead. And that's what I did before I even knew what a diversity shoot was or started it up. I had my 1022. I enjoy shooting small groups with a 1022. So I'd buy a box of, 500 rounds or a little over 500 rounds of that Federal just each week. I'd buy what I'd shoot at the range and I'd buy another one. And before long, I had bricks of 22. And that served me well once I did start the diversity shoot, that I didn't have to purchase 22 ammo. Like, I didn't have to purchase it. So I put it in my rotation of ammo calibers that I did purchase, and I was never really overwhelmed having to purchase multiple calibers or a large amount at one time until people started donating money. Or we were able to, get some raffle money from our events, and we could buy larger amounts of ammo. But plan this ahead. Don't fall for the okie doke. Oh, hold on. This one, it's over. 24 hours left. U.S. Navy attacked. This was 6 hours ago. This dude put up.
I don't know. I can't watch the news of the day because it's like tennis back and forth, and it doesn't end. It's not like it's not tennis because it's robot tennis, right? Like they just recharge on the court. Like they don't even need to stop to change their batteries. Like they're just a nonstop cycle. So
yeah,
it's once in a while is interesting. Like checking the score, I guess, once a week or something. Like come up with some kind of a schedule where you can monitor it. I like to monitor the monitors though. So I'll watch a couple of people, because they're friends or whatever, and they're constantly paying attention to the news. And if they start getting really concerned, I'll go look at something. But if they're just doing the guess, did you see what happened yesterday? Did you see what happened yesterday? Did you see what happened yesterday? Nope. Don't care. Because anyway, but I got a couple of things. I always didn't want to keep interrupting you there, but I think you turn into your better friend if you've got thousands of rounds of ammo. Oh wait, we're lagging. It didn't let me send that. But anyway, I think you're better friend if you've got people in your group, and these don't have to be people that are local. I mean, these can be people that you're just friends with. But someone wants to take a class and they can't afford, let's say, 500, 700,000. Tony said 500. If you take a big class, it's more like 1,500. So depending on what you got going on, it's not unreasonable to be like, dang, I can't afford to take this class because I can't afford 1,000 rounds. Well, here, let me borrow you 1,000 rounds. Pay me back when you can. It's a friend loan or whatever. I don't know if people do this still, but we do this all the time. And then that way you're helping your friends out to be able to accomplish things and do things. Or much less, more like, hey, somebody's in town. Can I borrow a couple hundred rounds to go over? Because it's super expensive right now. Yeah, no problem. That's why I'm a good friend. So now you can, when it's cheap again, you can replenish. You can throw up my stockpile, and it's not a dent. Like I'm not low because I have plenty. So it's just like anything. You want to consider that's up and down markets. You want to have room for that. Then the same thing, room for a class. If you want to take a class, like somebody shows up or there's a slot open or something frees up in your schedule, I'm going to be traveling anyway, and it turns out, that instructor is in that area. I can just bring my guns and stuff. Have a couple of 100 rounds to be able to not even, no problem. I can bring a bunch of ammo, and plus, when you're buying a case, like Tony said, now you can bring a bunch of the same ammo, because my thing is, over the years, different strategies, and I always recommend go to a gun show, buy ammo. So if you're doing that to help offset the price of the parking and gas and then the admission price, you're usually getting ammo way cheaper at a gun show, depending on how you shop. But you're also buying like a box here and there. You're buying it from somebody who doesn't want it anymore. They change calibers. There's 2 rounds missing, whatever. But you get a cheap box, one here to there. You're not buying cheap cases, right? But every once in a while, you can get cheap cases here and there. So anyway, you're going to have room to be able to get into a class, I guess. And then the other thing, the last thing, is more like what Tony would have in mind, and he kind of mentioned it with what he's doing with the diversity shoots. But if some family member or a friend of a family member, and they know you're the gun guy or gal, right? But some family member comes along and goes, blah, 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 for some reason, I want to go shooting. What do you want to be like? Oh, I wish I had ammo to take you shooting. Come on. Like, you want to be like, yes, let's go. And what if they say, oh, I need to borrow a gun because I'm going hunting or something. You're going to go, here's the gun, but I don't have any ammo for you. So just new shooters and family, like, if you don't consider my first one with, friends and stuff, if you don't have friends that you loan ammo like that, you might have family or you might have friends, or like I say, maybe somebody at work or church or something that's a new shooter. And again, just being a good ambassador is like, okay, I don't have to think twice or worry about my wallet. Let's take you shooting. Let's let you experience it. Let's bring 5 or 6 guns with different calibers. Let you see a little bit of a spectrum, and I'll bet I'll buy this back when it's cheap again at gun shows or something. Oh, I guess I was also going to say, whenever you go to a gun shop, you got the opportunity to buy a box or 2 of ammo. Help that shop out, and again, make it worth your time going and visiting a shop. Always leave money at a gun shop. Okay, now I'll stop ranting. Okay, if we beat that one, done that one, done to death. I don't want to say to death, but the last question was, why is there a 10-day waiting period in some states? And I was, giving my thing on that. If you want to answer that one at all.
Was it a 10-day waiting period?
In some states, and is there any data behind that practice?
Oh, there's data behind it proving that it's totally useless. It is just another anti-gun point, and usually they wait for a death to push it through. Whether it's on national level or state level, they usually use the blood of others to put nonsensical crap through. It's not based on real numbers of it being effective. It's based on this thing happened, these emotional hot buttons were pushed, and this legislation was able to be pushed through because of lack of action of firearms owners and lack of understanding. Most gun owners aren't into this and don't see it for what it is because they own a thing. It's like you paying attention to lawnmower legislation. You really don't. So if you own a gun and it's just a thing to you, you don't pay attention. Oh, it makes sense. 10 days, cooling down period, because this domestic violence situation happened, or guy bought a gun before he did a horrific workplace shooting. Not understanding that that's very small percentage of any deaths that happen, and it doesn't prevent anything. But what it does stop is you from purchasing a firearm for a 10-day waiting period if you're under threat of something happening. If things are going sideways in your city and you can see it happening, like was happening in 2020, and a lot of people in these states with the waiting period, wow, things are getting bad. I want to go buy a gun. Well, this is the first time they found out there's a 10-day waiting period, 10 working days, by the way. So that's 2 weeks minimum that you can get your gun after you purchase it. And then you find out the gun stores are empty and guns are on back order, and your gun that you want won't get here for another 2 weeks. And then you still have to wait 10 days after that. So you'll get a gun next month. that happens because of gun owners not paying attention, not being a part, actively politically educated. And it goes through in some places. Other places it gets defeated because either Second Amendment organizations kick in or individuals kick in and make phone calls and put pressure on their politicians to throw this crap out.
Right on. I'm going to jump to 500 had a question over here that I missed. It was just snuck in there. I missed it when it came up. So where did it go? It's a small one, so it didn't seem long. Okay, so 500 saying, any experience with the Delton AR-15s?
No experience personally with Deltines, but I've known some people that have them and they run. When you get with, what do you call them? When you get with the entry level, I guess they call it, but the lower end AR companies, the people that charge less to get in on it, what you run into is sometimes consistency in the quality control. That may be the problem with some of them. It's just that quality control consistency is different. So you can get, 10 good ones and two bad ones, but the guys that get the bad one are going to tell everybody about it. And then also you have people who've never had one, shot one. They're just going to badmouth it because the price point isn't where they think it should be. Because at one time, $1,000, $1,200 was pretty much entry level for an AR. And when more and more companies started making them, CNC machining and all that stuff happens, it became less and less expensive to make ARs. And now you can get an AR from Delton, Anderson. There's one more, I can't think of it. PSA is a little higher, but let's throw Plum State in there. They've changed that price point of getting into ARs to $500 now. So I think it's a great thing. I think if you want to check it out, you should check it out first before you make that your go-to. But yeah, you can buy a Delton. Also, one of the things that keep them inexpensive, I think, is they just mostly do mil spec. They just do mil spec with the regular, hand guards and things like that. And or they have like one more, like they have some M-lock, like one M-lock hand guard, and they give you the basic stuff. I think it's pretty good. I think it's a good thing to be able to stock up on your ARs if you want. Like if you want a couple extra for whatever you think may happen, including, in my opinion, just having more than one in case you have to use something, and the police are going to take it if you use an incident until their investigation is over. And if you only have one rifle, then your one rifle is at the police station. And it may be years before you get it back. Just the way I look at these things. That's why I think it's important for you to have more than one handgun. It's important for you to have more than one home defense gun and more than one carry gun.
Am I crazy, or did Delton make a polymer AR? Like a polymer lower?
Delton?
That's not right? Okay. So
Oh no, I'm not saying it's not right. I'm just
no, if
thinking.
that doesn't ring a bell for you, then I'm probably conflating it with something. But because I thought they were an Arizona company, so I'm mixing it up with another company. I think.
Oh
but
yeah. Plum.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that one maybe because Plum has changed their name a few times, and maybe one of them was similar. So they're in North Carolina, and they, like Tony. I think what you said, they make them mil spec. That's the way to sum it up. Is that they're not trying to compete with like the racing stripes or like I'm going to change the angle of something, or let's open this up so that competition shooters can do this, or so that tactical people can do that. They're just making the standard When you say mil spec, we're saying like, the standard dimensions essentially, so that all parts will fit it that are designed for the standard design spec. And like you say, the QA or the uh, you make a batch of 100 things, and the drill bits are going to get ground down. The vise might get a little wiggly. A million other things, like just little stuff happens. So there's some tolerance. There's some differences between each part. So you make a batch of, let's say, 50 or 100 parts, and you go watch a tour of a gun factory or a gun manufacturer. They'll have a room where all these receivers are, because they have to keep them separate. And it's just, they're going to keep all their parts separate, but the receivers are usually in a separate room and stuff. So it's a nice, impressive picture. So, they do batches depending on how big the manufacturer is. Let's say 50 to 100. The ultimate manufacturers are going to check every single part. How long does that take? They have an expert fiddle with every single part and make sure it's within some refined spec. That's beyond mil spec. But if they take each part and they set it into a fixture and they can put up a probe to it and it's, within a tolerance of this and that, okay, good, move it along. Let's say they test 6 out of every 50. Let's say they test 60 out of every 100. That's sort of the difference between manufacturers. So when you're talking the ones that are less expensive, they've spent less time. So they use a metal that's probably the same. They put them through a process that's probably similar. It's just that when they're done, they're not checking every single one and, spending man hours and time in the factory waiting for all of them to go through that test. If they get 6 that go through, they assume the batch was good to go, and they move it through. If some of them test 4 out of 100, it just depends on the company. And they all take pride. Sometimes they take pride, like, hey, we test 10 now. Like, we used to only test 4. Now we test 10 out of 100. And then some companies, like, we test 60 out of 100. And if they're not all within spec, all 100 get kicked out. And then some company goes, well, some company tested 60 out of 100 and they didn't meet their spec, so we bought them. And now we bought them from the same place, right? Now they go, hey, we buy our barrels from the same place. We buy our receivers from the same place. Yeah, you bought the ones that were out of spec a little bit. So now you're going to be that medium company. And, depending on when they're branded or whatever, if they're already, these are probably before they're engraved or whatever, before there's roll marks in them. So, then whoever buys them just puts their roll marks on them, and now it's their receiver. So essentially that's how I think of it, is the ones that are mil spec are just the ones that, they test a few. If they're within spec, good to go. And like Tony said, I don't think you need everything to be, like, you don't want every tool to be super precise. Then you're just wasting everybody's time and you're wasting a bunch of money. If you're just going to shove that screwdriver into a paint can and open it, you don't want a finely crafted precision, like surgical screwdriver, right? You just want some pry bar screwdriver. So if you're just going to the range and you're just going to have a gun at the shed or something, for something if a cougar comes up or something or whatever, you don't necessarily need something that's $1,000 sitting in the back porch or whatever. Or just something, like you say, a new shooter. If you're trying to get rifles for all your grandkids or something, it'd be great if you could spend $1,000, but that kid may or may not like that gun. What if they like both guns, and now you just wasted $1,000 on an AR that's going to be sitting there?
Exactly. Hey, you got your cousins coming down. Well, okay, bro. Look, your cousin, who's never shot a gun before, is going to be just as impressed with your Delton or Anderson AR with inexpensive red, let's say not inexpensive, but decent Holosun on it, as he will your military correct clone from Daniel Defense of a Mark 18 with laser drip and and a special Cerakote job. It's like, yeah, same to him. One's going to be brown to him and the other one's going to be black, and that's all he's going to know. So yeah, give him a regular thing, and when he goes, wow, how much is this? This is a lot of fun. You can go, oh, I picked it up for like $600. Really? Man, wife is not going to complain about how expensive it is, or it's not going to affect my budget. I can become a gun owner for $600 and own this. This is awesome.
And they know they're buying like the, Honda, $600 motorcycle. They're not buying the $1,200 Ninja or the $2,000 Harley. They know they can go there if they want. but they're buying
Yep.
the little commuter bike that gets them around, or maybe even the moped, depending on if it's a 9mm, it's the little rickety bicycle where one of the pedals missing.
Because I have a lot of people that have gotten into, and it's only because of what I do, and the people that know it. So they know I'm into introducing new people. They know I do these podcasts. So I have a freedom being the gun guy at work, and people will come up to me and go, "Yo, dude, I just picked up a what is it, Smith and Wesson Sport." I'm like, "Cool." Other people, when you in this space, they go, "Wow, really? It's a $600 rifle, man. What the heck?" I'm like, "No, cool." They became a gun owner. Now they want to know how to accessorize it, what to put on it, and I can talk to them about different products, so they're not throwing their money away on just some, Hey, I found this red dot for $30. All right, well, be careful with $30 red dots. catch
But
this on sale for 130. You might be better off.
well, that's a good point. And the thing is, sport has no forward assist and no receiver cover, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
spend less time machining it, so it's a cheaper end cost because they have less humans doing stuff to it. But once they start to buy accessories, they're going to go, oh, wait a minute. But I don't think this is a thing anymore. But back in the olden days, you'd have commercial and military tubes for the receiver extension would be in two different dimensions. And I think that was, again, when we talked about the waiting periods, that was one of those dumb requirements. I don't remember even. I had to think about where it even came from. Diameter tubes. So, it was a pain to buy stocks, and companies would have to buy two different or make them in two different dimensions. And I think that's gone. I don't even think people don't even know that was a thing anymore. I don't even think you see those stocks in circulation too much anymore. But, once they buy that sport and they go to figure out, I can't get that because, it relies on the forward assist or something, or they go, hey, how come my gun doesn't have this dust cover that I kind of want because, it's dusty in Arizona or whatever. That's where they go, oh, okay, there's more. I can go to the Harley. I can go to the crotch rocket. I can go to the moped. I can go down from this. I can go up from this. I can go in different directions. And you got to start somewhere. So these things definitely have a place. And I think if you're going to try to get, well, you mentioned, I'm going to go two directions. You're talking about $30 optics. I think the same thing. Like if you want to see if an optic's right for you, that's where those $30 ones are great. If you're going to just, give it to somebody who's, again, may or may not like it, that's where the $30 ones are great. And then those $130 ones, as soon as they come out with a new model, like you're saying, they're going to come out with a new model next year. They kind of don't want those old ones in the warehouse anymore. They're probably going to do some kind of crazy sale and just keep an eye on people. Like Bullets for Bucks is out there. He's the kind of person you watch that kind of channel, and he'll let you know in the community tab when there's a massive sale on something. And then same thing as buying your ammo when it's cheap. Watch for these sales. That going into the new year, the holiday season, going into SHOT Show, these are all opportunities for companies to get rid of old inventory so that they can bring out the new one. So keep an eye out. You get some massive sales, right?
Exactly. You don't have to One of the cool things about us not being dependent on, advertisers and sponsors is we don't have to push things. Oh, this new thing came out and you just get beat up. Hey, blah, 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 buy this, buy this. We don't have to do that. We can tell you, hey, guess what's on sale because they came out with a new model of this, the old model. Nothing was wrong with it. It just has less options or different options than the new model. Doesn't even mean the new one's that much better. Just means they threw a new paint job on it and moved the button or two. If you can live with the old one, cool. Let's do it.
And there's nothing wrong with getting two. Like you don't have to go, I got the old model, so therefore I can't get the new model. Everybody's happy when you get both.
Get both.
Plain Nuts is less of a question, but we can comment on it anyway. We're gun people. She says, I picked up another no-name brand AR from a place for some amount of money, and I actually like it better than my scoped Mini 14. So, no brand AR at a discount price better than a scoped Mini 14. Any comments?
I like ARs better than like Mini 14s.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I kind of understand them, but I've never enjoyed shooting them. They're just way too complicated, and I don't like them.
They're not as accurate. They have less options. Not that I throw a bunch of stuff on the gun, but there's just less options available, including where you mount the optic at, as far as I remember. I mean, my A-team nostalgia only goes so far.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a good way to say it, I think. And I don't have that much. I like the A-team, but I liked it for other stuff. I liked when you would like BA would weld something, like the MacGyver aspect of like, hey, we need this
Mm-hmm.
thing to do this, and just started the problem solving part of it because it was a bad gun show. You know what I mean? Like it was
Oh,
like
it's a horrible gun check.
it was like GI Joe. You don't watch GI Joe because it's a gun show. They had lasers half the time, and nobody ever hit anybody.
Exactly.
Says he hasn't had any kind of malfunction yet on the AR versus my Mini 14 stovepipe in every 20 rounds. So I don't want to just like say, jump onto the Mini 14 suck pile because I don't think that's
No.
the case. They're machines like anything, and you can have issues. That's the problem though, is that older machines, either the design of them or probably, they had tolerances and they had abilities of what they could make out of metal, and they knew that, so they designed accordingly, right? Like if you know that you get this much tolerance, if you're lucky, then you're not going to design something that's impossible to work unless it's in mass. That's why German guns suck so bad. Like they designed to the ultimate of their
Mm-hmm.
abilities, and if everything wasn't working in harmony, you got a thing that just was tweaked, and it was so hard to find where the tweak was because there's so many moving parts and things. So I think that's where these older guns fall into. We can't judge them with today's eyes. Is that the way to say it? Like now we
Yep.
have just computers and robots and stuff, and you, except for drill bits going dull and people not putting stuff in right, human error and just wear and tear. Aside from that, like it's very easy to design for a tolerance that's way better. So the designs today can just be better. So anyway, I know that some people have definitely had issues, but man, I can remember just working at the shop for so long that people would come in, and I'm trying to think, like if imagine working at a place and like a motorcycle shop. We'll go to motorcycles again, and somebody brings in their motorcycle that barely has any wear on the tires, right? And there's no bugs on the windshield, the odometer's hardly used, and they're complaining about something versus somebody that comes in and it's full of mud, the odometer's turned over twice, and they've replaced almost every part on the thing. Those people are using their machines differently, and they expect different things out of them, and they have a different, what's the word, like they have a different expectation of what the machine can do. So some people are like, I can't figure out why every time I use my gun it scratches here. Is there a problem? It's like, what? Nobody's even considered that it scratches here. That's just a part of the operation of the gun, and they won't take that for an answer. Like, oh no, it shouldn't scratch here. Do I have to blue it again? And then can I get another one? Can I return it? Like, what are you talking about? It's like something where a lever moves on something. Like, let's say the AK uh, safe selector. It's going to scrape up on
Mm-hmm.
the receiver and make a little, like, that's just the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially somebody could come in and go, well, this is making a long gun. How do I solve it? Can I put a piece of felt there? I mean, like there's people use their guns differently, have different, like they're allowed, it's free country. They're allowed to care about these different things, but trying to use extract the example that, these guns expect some things out of someone, but at the same time, you're using your gun and it's performing poorly. You can't just blame the gun. You can look at how you're using the gun. Maybe that's the way to say it.
Well, as far as the Mini 14 versus the AR, because people love that, they love the versus aspect of stuff. So I'll play into it a little bit. The AR one was mil spec. They have a mil spec base that all ARs have to meet. And in my opinion, Ruger was starting to be made in the 70s, and they've made changes on the Ruger line to the Mini 14 that some are built to one like specification. Then they changed some things because they were trying to get better dependability, better accuracy out of it. And I think they've developed over time, but I think because of just the sheer number of AR manufacturers out there, they've developed faster. And also, the new ARs and the new expectations. And when you talk about an AR-15, if you say your AR-15 gets 3-inch groups, people will call it garbage because they expect so much better because of gun writers and gun reviewers. And many 14s don't have that same degree of accuracy, especially some of the older guns. And people just go by the older performance of the mini 14s, but they go by the but then when they compare it to ARs, they go by the newest AR that just came off the line that just had the latest review done to it. So I don't think some of it's fair to the Ruger, but they're just way more ARs. ARs are now America's rifle. That wasn't so when the Mini 14 first came out because the Mini 14 was about a third or half the price of an AR, if I remember correctly, back in the day.
And it's kind of got the Gen 3 Glock thing going where because it doesn't have a pistol grip and you can get it pinned or something, like, there's ways for it to be more available in states that restrict the AR-15s
Mm-hmm.
or grandfathered because it's old or something. Although it does have a magazine, and that scares a lot of anti-rights folks. So it probably does get included with it's a kind of a, you can't win, right? Like it's just
Oh, yeah.
enough of an AR that it gets demonized, and it's not enough of an AR that it doesn't get any respect either. Although it does get respect by a group. I mean, it's definitely still there. It's not a completely lost to history gun or anything.
No, it's not at all. I think I still believe, like we said before, some of it's nostalgia, some of it's the ban proof that some people think it is, but now that it takes, understand there's always going to be a moving goalpost with the anti-gunners. Right now, the national level thing they're trying to do is talk about internal magazines and 10 rounds. Well, that's called an SKS. That's now the standard they want, according to this latest anti-gun bill. The omnibus bill was coming out. It is not even detachable magazines. Anything with a detachable magazine is an assault rifle now. So the Mini 14 isn't safe now. So yeah.
Since this bill's coming, everyone should panic and buy a bunch of ammo, as much ammo as they can afford, as fast as
Oh, it's
possible.
coming. It's the end. It's all over with, man. Buy all your assault rifles now because it's over. And in a month from now, I'll be telling you it's over for a totally another reason.
It'll be even more over.
Oh, it's an election year. It's definitely over. In 2024, definitely over. Just buy everything now, or they'll cease to exist. I mean, this is what these people sound like.
Well, and the thing is, it's the same as a complaint I've always said. I have to say it again because I don't know who's new and listening to this for the first time or whatever. But I think there's enough people in the gun community that Walmart greeter, that there's enough people walking into this big community that they can have a greeter there that goes, "Hey, welcome," and that there's enough people that have never seen that greeter before, so they're like, "Hey, we appreciate that. Thank you. Welcome back. Like, thank you for welcoming me." And let's say they go, "Hey, welcome. You care about what we care about? Here's, give us $30 or something." And it's like, "Oh, great. Here's $30. I'm glad I'm contributing to my newfound community or whatever." And then essentially you come back to the place, you come back to the community and it's, "Hey, welcome." Like, "Hey, yeah, I've been here before. Thanks." "Hey, welcome." "Yeah, okay, I've been here before. Thanks." Eventually you're just going to ignore that person. And that's what they depend on, because when you come over and go, "Hey, what about this and that?" They're like, "I'm not sure. I'm not the person to ask about that." Like, "Welcome, welcome to the next
Yeah.
person. Welcome. Like, where's this in the store? I don't really know. Welcome. So, and that's the frustrating part. So you get that, whatever that, I don't know if there's a term for that phenomenon, but then you get that with the sky is falling folks. There's so many new people that you can go, "Hey, you better get your ammo because of this." And if you're just getting onto the scene, you're like, "Oh shit, should I get ammo? Like, I don't know enough people. Who do I ask?" Like, "Oh shit, I guess I should go
Yeah.
buy some ammo." And if there's 1,000 new people in the state, and what does that do to 50 gun shops? Like, "Oh shit, they're all out of ammo." Now there's this perception that everything's out of ammo. It started from a few people freaking out. And again, there's so many people coming in that works. And even if they don't go freak out and buy ammo, they watch your channel, they subscribe. And it, after a while you go, you know what, this guy's saying this is going to happen every week. This lady's saying that every week this is
Mm-hmm.
going to happen, and you unsubscribe or you quit listening. But they don't care because they got the next group of new people that are coming in, that welcome effect. Like, okay, whatever, you didn't want to come back to listen to what I'm saying. I don't care because I got new people coming in to listen to what I say. And there's always this crowd of people that don't unsubscribe, that are still there, but they're hearing you and whatever,
Yeah.
that's something I
I'm I'm one of them. As you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, I didn't unsubscribe to the dude. I just look at it and go, wow. So this is the latest the sky is falling thing. And it sucks, but there's always going to be those people there because it's easy.
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't think we want it without it. Honestly. Would we be better off without anything like that? No, I mean I think we'd either be sterile and it'd be boring over here, or we wouldn't be paying attention. If you don't got people watching your back and watching up and down, you're vulnerable, right? You're not paying attention in all directions.
you're not paying attention in all directions. And just because every week they say the same thing doesn't mean eventually they won't be right. Or they're not right about the things you should look out for. Again, it is not the panic. It is just these are things you should be aware of. They're just packaging this panic, panic. Oh my God. But it's like,
Oh, that's
okay,
that's
cool.
definitely the way
I'm
to say
paying
it.
attention. I'm paying attention. I'm aware. I'm aware they pushing new legislation out. That's why also something that falls in line with the ammo thing, with the study, paying attention is on a regular basis. Just write your legislators, comment. Hi, I'm your constituent. I'm a Second Amendment advocate and I support those that support our freedoms. I see you voted for, against gun bans, against gun control steadily. I really appreciate it as your constituent. Here's $20 to contribute to your campaign fund. Now, all of a sudden, not only are you a constituent, you're a donor. You're at another level when it comes to communicating with your representative. And don't wait until there's a mass shooting to do it because that's when people push and that's when the robocalls come from or the moms demand or the antis have their organizations call and bombard these people. Do it before these things happen. Establish a relationship of some sort with your elected officials. Sadly, mine is a relationship of animosity because I have, both of my senators here in New Jersey are anti-gun, and also so is my local representative. They're anti-gun, so it's just me going, "Hey, what you're doing is wrong, and I don't support it at all, and I'll be voting against you come next election," and actively campaigning to tell people not to vote for people that don't believe in their rights. Doesn't have to be bad, doesn't have to be evil, don't have to call names, but just make them aware that yes, I vote and I'm politically educated and active. That's the same thing. It's part of being a responsible firearms owner and a responsible citizen, exercising those rights that are ours. And if we don't exercise them, people take them granted, take us for granted as voters.
It's a
Squeaky
muscle that
wheel
you want
gets
to
the grease.
flex. It's a muscle you want to flex so that you get good at it. And then when you need to, you got the muscle memory and you got the muscle capacity, like you've exercised, so you're stronger. But you've also got a relationship in the process. We're calling it a muscle, but it's a relationship you're building with people. And even if the politician doesn't get reelected, let's say, you understand the process, you know where to park, you know when to go and how long it's going to take you to get there. You've been to enough of them, and it's going to be a big deal how much earlier you need to be there. Some of the
Uh-huh.
staff that doesn't get reelected, that's there permanently. You know which hallways to go down and where the bathrooms are. All of that stuff is the stuff
All
like
of
the
that.
ladies of the Women for Gun Rights are doing, and quite a few other people are taking those steps. And there's unapologetically armed. That kind of resource that we have, somebody that knows that stuff. She can't just put bullet points for that and like hand it down because it's going to keep changing. So it's something that people have to be experiencing and doing. There's a lot of value there. Oh, so
Yep.
anyway, we can participate in that. You don't have to watch other people do it. It's a muscle. So it's a matter of calling your representatives and letting them know what your opinion is on stuff so that they know your name. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I was going to say, uh, wherever it is you live, even in a huge place, the way that our system works is that representative only works for a number of people. How many people you think are talking to them on a regular basis? Sure, there's some, like, probably some people that are abusing it and, taking advantage of it and just complaining about unnecessary stuff. But that aside, that's probably a factor of almost anything. Even if you do anything, like there's a store that is going to have somebody that's abusing something in the store, right? There's always going to be somebody abusing it. But aside from that, how many people really participate at the level where they know the name, or the representative knows the name of the person? uh,
Mm-hmm.
Probably a handful. So you're now one of a handful. So when they have to think about our constituents care about, well, they care about the quarry over there and the contaminants from it. They care about the lack of something over here, and they care about the library. Oh, and then they care about gun rights for some reason, right? Like, boom, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one person making that call. Now, what if three people? Then they're like, well, let's see, what's the priority of the people in my community? Well, gun rights, because there's five of them, and then the library, and then the quarry. So it can be three or four people that make a difference. And obviously, in a bigger place, it might be 30 people. But how do you get to 30 people without each person making a phone call?
Yeah, and they have that. They have that math. They have that. If 10 people write, it's representative of this many constituents. It's not just 10 people, and who cares because they have throw a number out there, 7,000 voters in this small city or large town. They have 7,000 voters. What's 10? Well, no, you have 7,000 voters, but 50% of them don't come out anyway. That's just registered voters. 50% don't come out. And then you can split the town however you want into party. So that party's not even going to talk to you. So now you're down to freaking 1,500. Well, now all of a sudden that 10 or 30 make a big difference in 1,500
Yep. And
because
like you
most
said,
people.
the emails recommend, one email represents this opinion to this many
Mhm.
people. A phone call represents this many. A regular letter represents this many, and then a visit represents this many. Right? Like, there's that
Yeah.
they understand that you coming in at this level to talk to them indicates that that by the statistics or whatever, you represent like at least 700, 1,000, a good chunk of their constituency. So that's why they take that. They don't just ignore it.
Oh,
They understand that you're an indicator.
it's a real thing. I mean, and if you really want to become an activist, a pain in the ass, but just somebody who's heard on your local level, because all politics are local, and that's where the real difference in your daily life is. Get together with a group. I mean, form one if you have to. Come up with a WhatsApp, chat group or even a Facebook page and reach out to people through that. And then when you show up, you're not just, Gus Smith from down the road. You're Gus Smith with the neighborhood action committee and here's our Facebook page or even here's our .com and our concerns about what's happening in our town with this subject or with these subjects.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden
Or
it's
here's our committee to prevent this from becoming an issue here. Like, we're here to prevent this from being an issue. We're concerned that it might become an issue. You're allowed to do that too.
yeah. And if you have any questions about this particular issue, which we know you can't be an expert on everything, here's our phone number and our contact information. We'll willingly come out and talk to you or make time to help educate you on this subject.
Yeah,
It's
another great
all a
point.
real thing. Yep, the time to do this is before there's an emergency, before there's a big call. Because if they know you exist as a resource, and this is why I'm saying this because I've had this told to me by others that are Second Amendment advocates. You come to your local politician who's just there taking in information. They are not gun experts, they're not the gun committee, and they get caught up in the same drama some of us do too. oh my God, we need to do something. Well, they think they're doing the right thing because they hear screams about something needs to be done right after an emergency. And it's about guns. Well, they don't know about guns. Well, become that resource. Offer yourself out there as that resource and talk to them on a regular basis. Not all the time that you're like a stalker, but just so they know you exist. So when something does happen, they go, hey, don't we have a guy that writes us about once a month talking about the committee for the prevention of, I don't know, infringement on the Second Amendment, whatever you want to call your organization. And yeah, we do. Hey, give them a call and see what they have to say about this new proposal that they just sent down the pike. All of a sudden now you're talking to somebody on a committee or somebody in your township because they're using you as a resource because you've continually made yourself available to them and they're aware of you. It takes some effort. But if you want to be that change, if you want to make a difference, you're going to have to put forth some effort. It just is all going to fall in place. People that do stuff actually do stuff. It takes commitment, it takes a little bit of time. Not a lot, but a little.
So I got a question about how does one become a member of CPISA, the Citizens for the Prevention of the Infringements on the Second Amendment that you mentioned?
Nice. Nice. CPISA.
Yep, comes into CPISA, unless there's another way to pronounce that.
Um,
So if you could put an R in there, CRISPA? No, it's still wrong. But
it's like come up with the acronym and then we'll make it mean something. That's what the Navy does, it seems like.
I've heard this. I think it was either Second Amendment Foundation or Gun Owners of America started referring to the anti-rights folks as the donor class, or at least a fraction of them or a portion of them is the donor class. I thought that's pretty neat. I don't know. It seems a little derogatory somehow. And then it alludes to like this is a financial thing, maybe even more so than an issue to, than a campaign to solve a problem. It's more of a financial thing. So I don't know. I like that. I'm going to try to start using it more, or try to figure out a way to use it when describing the antis, because I think a lot of this we get mad about them using emotions and all that, and then we sit here getting offended by everything and then reacting emotionally, when I think there's other ways to react, including scrutinizing the finances, for example, which, they're constantly using taxpayer dollars to do all this stuff, and nobody's ever asking them to justify the time spent or the money spent. And in Massachusetts right now, they're not even asking them to they somehow voted so that they don't have to justify how they're going to pay for the stuff that they're requiring, their 50-something crazy anti-gun laws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you point this out, hey, they're talking about banning guns. Did they tell you how they're going to get the 400 million that are already out there out of the hands of citizens that have never broken a law?
Or like,
and how they're going to enforce that?
Get them from the criminals. There's a lot of memes out there like, fine, take the guns, criminals first. We'll watch and I'll comply after. Once everybody's convinced that the criminals don't have guns anymore, they're slap fighting and dance battling it off every time they want to have a territory thing. And
Yeah. When all of a sudden drive-by shootings change into dance off in the middle of the street, like
did that guy just moonwalk past our territory? Like, let's go out there.
No, he didn't.
Sit around on some cardboard.
When guys pull up, jump out of the car, and throw cardboard on the ground, and start pop blocking it to determine whose block it is.
Like some people start beatboxing.
Yeah.
Instead of everybody jumping it for cover, everybody starts jumping out with some popcorn and
oh.
It was like that in the 80s. Everybody forgets about those times during the 80s that nobody talks about.
Yeah, that dance battles. Whose block is this?
Remember the Michael Jackson videos documented a bunch of those kind of dance battles that would happen. Violent dance battles over girls.
The first time we've seen Wesley Snipes.
Oh, snap.
The first time we saw Wesley Snipes. Yep.
Is that one
And
with?
that video.
Holy shit! I didn't know that.
Yep. That was Wesley Snipes' film debut. Him battling him and Michael Jackson going head to head in I'm Bad video with the zipper jackets and whatnot. So yeah, I 100% agree. So they never have answers to how are you going to get the guns out of the hands of criminals? What do you do about the hundreds of thousands to millions, depends on who you listen to, of people every year that save themselves using a firearm, that self-rescue? If you think 40,000 is an epidemic, what do you think 500,000 is if those people that have firearms and prevented themselves from being victims of violent crime? What is 500,000 if 40,000 is an epidemic and you don't take into account 60% of that 40,000 is suicide, which is not a gun problem and which they offer no solutions to also, or 30% of that is gang-related violence, which again is getting guns out of the hands of criminals, which they have no answer to. So when we talk about gun violence epidemic, all they're talking about and all they point out is the 1% or less of mass shootings in that number. If you're solving 1% of a problem, and by that you're banning 100% of gun ownership in America, that's not common sense.
And when you're focusing in on that aspect of it, what would solve that would be removing one single item that could easily be replaced by a person with the same intent, or do you blame or at least put focus on the idea that if you want to become infamous and you want to get the focus of the media for free, and you want to get and you're going to get more focus than the wars, than the presidential elections, and more focus than the Super Bowl, because it's documented by people that watch the media that they spend more time on mass murderers, and you know exactly where the mass murderers need to go, and you know exactly what they have to hold in their hands to do what they need to do. And no one has to even allude to it more than that, because the media has already designed that into the recipe, and that's messed up. They're going to blame the one item, again, that can easily be changed out for any other item if that person really had that intent, but they're not going to place any scrutiny or any blame or any causality or any solution in the realm of ignoring or paying less attention or doing something to the same way that they've already done in the past with what did they call them back in the day? What did they call them? There's like people that worry about them all the time, serial killers. Like they used to focus on serial killers, and eventually they said, would you quit showing off serial killers? You're creating more serial killers. Like, what the hell? You make them famous and then they happen again. Like, quit doing that. Bombers, quit talking about them and they quit happening. Like, okay, but here now, all of a sudden it's different, and all of a sudden it's a health crisis. 107,000 fentanyl deaths, overdoses. That's just the overdoses. Increased by 5 times. I keep saying this. But like you just said, 40,000 gun deaths is a health crisis. And of course, we know, like you just said, 60. Well, we'll know because Brooke Cheney's about to start her suicide prevention Saturday discussion here in about 4 hours. It's 7 p.m. Eastern. Or no, wait. It's probably 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what time it is in metric. But with all those suicides, again, they include those. They have to stand on those graves. But yeah, compared to alcohol, 100,000 deaths, tobacco, 500,000 deaths, or fentanyl, 107,000 deaths. These are all of the last time I looked it up a couple of weeks ago. They're going to consider guns the health crisis. But
yeah, national health crisis.
Well, they do that because they have doctors. Doctors will do whatever they tell them because doctors want to be famous, and doctors want more money for being their research or whatever that tells them whatever they want to have conclusions for. And cops, right? They only have some sheriffs. No, not sheriffs. They have some chiefs. But even now in Massachusetts, every single 246 chiefs of police told them that their gun laws are stupid, that they're not going to enforce them. So they don't even always have chiefs, but they almost never have sheriffs on their side, elected law enforcement. They only have appointed law enforcement on their side who they tell, they say, hey, you want the job? You just have to agree with us, right? Done.
Yeah,
So amazingly, they get only some law enforcement on their side, so they can't say it's a criminal issue. And if they say it's a societal issue, then it's the failed policies in the area that are, the cause of that societal issue. So they'll never take that blame. So it has to be
nope.
the third item. It has to be a health crisis. And again, they have the doctors who are willing to say whatever they want. So it's a health crisis. But again, the only way they can use that is to ignore 107,000, an increase of 5 times fentanyl deaths. And that's just the overdoses. I mean, if there's 100,000 overdoses, how many people are in crisis with fentanyl? Yeah, oh my gosh. And then you have, they claim 100 and something thousand alcohol deaths. Well, that's ATF. And then 500,000 tobacco. Well, what the heck? That's not a crisis. And then every time I say these, not every time, but occasionally when I say this, because I try to say this as often as possible so that we bring it into our conversations with our side, so that we become stronger and emboldened with like, hey, we're fucking right. But also when we have conversations with the other side, don't say fucking right when you're talking to the other side. But every once in a while, somebody will say, there's way more people die in health related, like getting us sick in the hospital or dying on the operating table. And I don't blame doctors. I mean, if you're on an operating table, you're probably fucked up. So they're trying to save you. And if they can't save you, it's not their fault necessarily. And if they leave a sponge in you, it's their fault. Or if they cut your wrong lung off or something. But I'm not going to blame doctors for being infallible and require doctors to be infallible. It'd be nice, but we don't have robot doctors yet. But, again, we have accidents, and then again, getting sick in a hospital, like, come on, like you're there because you're sick, you're getting better. And unfortunately they're not perfect, but if it's neglect or something, they should be held accountable. But that all aside, obviously those are whole discussions for people that know a lot more about it. Those kind of deaths dwarf what we're talking about here, yet they cry health crisis without any real challenge from the media. So we need to be able to bring this up confidently when we have conversations with people, that it's real easy to research CDC tobacco deaths, CDC alcohol deaths. It's like the first thing that comes up in Google, and it'll tell you, like, in the description, 100,000 deaths, 500,000 deaths. And fentanyl, like I say, is a massive issue. That means they have to talk about their border policies, and they have to talk about their international policies with the precursors from China, which they don't want to ignore. So, ignore this stuff, it'll go away. Unfortunately, ignore it, and it just kills the hell out of people that are at risk.
Yeah, ignore it, and it causes deaths. And again, I said it in one of my posts last week, because this week I've been really busy with my wife. But last week I said it. It's a death cult. They need these numbers. It's required so they can conflate mass shootings with all the other causes of death that a firearm, for firearm. They need that to happen. Because if you 400 people a year die in mass shootings, that's not a national health crisis. 400 people die from falls in their bathroom a year.
Yeah, like pools, stairs. And again, they could, that's what I like, is that we don't have to somehow win everybody into being gun owners. We don't have to challenge everyone, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to win. All we have to do is create enough of a defense that they understand that we're going to resist, because then they can go after pools. They can go after stairways and go, there's unsafe stairway practices. We should have Nerf stairways and blah, blah, blah. No one's going to care about that. There's nobody has like a care about stairways like that. There's no like stairway owners that are going to resist that so much. Pool owners, again, there's no way you should be able to own that much water. Like that's, you shouldn't be able to have that much water as a private person without a lot of regulations and background checks. Like only certain people would want to have that much water in their backyard anyway, right? Like they can go after something else, demonize something else that doesn't have a huge resistance to it. And I'm not saying we win there, because the politician is still out there being unscrupulous, but at least one, we would have secured our win against them. And then also there's a win there when we do that together, when we have these wins like we did in 2013. That was, you could taste it. It was just, we all became more emboldened. We all understood our abilities, right? We understood our place, that the individual together is, that this system is designed for that. There was a same thing after 9/11, driving around the country. There was like a sense, I don't know, like an anti-tension, I don't know what to call it. Like there was this vibe, the kids would say, right? Like, and you can't create that, it happens, but that's what happens, after a win. Think of the vibe that happens in a school or something after a win, right? Like that there's just this thing that happens when everybody understands that they just accomplished something together, and that power is there. So the other side understands it and they leave us alone. But then, like I say, the other positive result of that is that we understand we can do that. And then that resolve, or that like understanding, gets passed down. And I don't have this. I didn't come out of it. This is because I've seen it happen, and others described it happening in the past before, we were around paying attention to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, we've been going for an hour and a half. Let's wrap it up.
All right.
I don't know if you got time to chat after. I'm going to throw this link out to a bunch of people and see if anybody wants to chat after. Have a little conversation off air. But I want to thank our Patreons on our side, the people that subscribe to what we do. They make it possible for me to spend the time on this. They also pay for our servers and the software that we use to accomplish the things that we do with our projects. They subscribe. Most of them are buying us a cup of coffee each month, so $5 a month. Some people are buying us lunch, $25 a month. Somewhere in between, we have some things like the box of ammo at $7.62. If you know, you know. And we appreciate that. That accumulates, and like I say, it pays our servers. It allows us to take the time to spend pretty much a couple of hours almost every day online live to talk about what matters, not just the new grip angles and the red dots. Plenty of people are out there talking about that, but we want to keep a consistent focus on what that Second Amendment protects and those people who are doing it, to create some motivation, inspire folks potentially, and to just keep some channels available. And when we do these off-air conversations, keep some relationships going, some collaborations going, get people to meet each other and to accomplish some stuff. So thanks everybody for making that happen. I'll shut up and give Tony a chance here to talk about the diversity shoots and the 2A for E. Thanks for jumping in.
Oh, yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate you guys listening, asking questions and things like that. Also appreciate the ability to have the ability to tell you guys about the next diversity shoot, which is December 14th at Recoil Range in Monroe, New Jersey. It's going to be available in all of my social media, which includes Simon Says Train on Facebook. The Second is for Everyone on Facebook. Second for Everyone on X. And Simon Says Train on Instagram. Also, you can visit diversityshoot.com, see when the next event is, and make donations there using our PayPal or any other link, or just email me at tony@diversityshoot.com to find out how you can help us out financially. So that's what's going on, and hopefully by the time SHOT Show is over, I'll have my 501c3 numbers or whatever it takes to do that, because this week has been a bust, but we're getting this done because I want 2024 to be huge. I'm working on being better health, having more energy, and kicking 2024 off. Since it's an election year, I want to reach many more people in many more states, and through the Second is for Everyone podcast, which is on your favorite podcast app. You can hear about what I do there and the work we've done at the Second is for Everyone Second is for Everyone podcast. So thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Right on. You still have one on the 14th?
Yep, got one on the 14th, and both Recoil, which they're going to do their scheduling for 2024 Monday. So they told me to contact them after Monday. But what I'm doing is spreading it to more ranges, but less appearances in the same place. Because I think people are starting to take us for granted that we were going to be at these 3 ranges and they could just come at any time. And I'm like, no, we want to be at more ranges across the state and PA, and you're going to be limited to amount of time you could come to your favorite range. So make it special. Like I may be cutting back on the number of appearances at the same ranges, but I'm increasing the number of ranges. So we're still going to be doing twice a month, but hopefully we'll be doing twice a month at like 5 instead of 3 ranges in the state. That's what I'm looking at in 2024, just in Jersey alone. I'm looking at 5 ranges with 2 events a month. And then I want to do PA. I have some connections because of Charlie. He hooked me up with someone, and we're going to find out if we can come to PA and do events too at a different range in Pennsylvania. And I'm talking to Edgar for Guns for Everyone out in Colorado. I want to get out there and work with him. If you don't know about Guns for Everyone, you know about Edgar Antione, right, G?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I want to get with Guns for Everyone and get out there and do a combined 2A4E Guns for Everyone event. What Edgar does for free is train people on their Colorado CCW. And I think that's a really great cause because it gets people educated on carrying their firearms and let them know what the laws are out in Colorado, and also, gives them the skills to actually use the firearm and know what it's like. Because nothing like a firearms training class to let you know where you're weak at.
And he's said, well, this was years ago, so I'm assuming it's the same because he does a lot of classes. He said something like 10% of the CCWs in Colorado were through his free classes.
Yeah, and the crazy part is there were instructors trying to shut him down in Colorado because they were afraid he was going to get all their business. He was like, there's not enough hours in a day for me to train everybody in Colorado. What are you worried about?
Well, 10% is a cut, but I get it. But the thing is, well, whatever. There's always going to be somebody to complain about.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. And the complaints come from people you wouldn't even expect.
I mean, most complaints in my experience come from 9mm shooters.
Nice.
What happened? Did Brooke just switch hers to tomorrow, it looks like? So normally I would say, hey, let's head over to Great Start Shooting School in a couple hours and check out the consistent weekly effort from Brooke Cheney called Suicide Prevention Saturday, where they offer a short, maybe 20 minutes usually, live conversation about either mental health awareness or suicide prevention or both, to normalize the conversation so we can be more comfortable talking to each other and the other side about what we alluded to there, that 2 out of every 3 deaths with a firearm are from suicide. That's why they have to say deaths with firearm. They can't say murders with firearms. There's very, very few murders with firearms, really. But anyways, Brooke offers a consistent weekly focus on that, and it looks like she's a person with many things going on. She moved it till tomorrow, so looks like in 28 hours. Look forward to it. That'll be just after She Fires goes live. So if you want to check out another show tomorrow, just before Brooke, She Fires goes live each Sunday. Let's see, Hillbilly Up will go live later on tonight, and then DM Foss will do the overnight. I'm going to keep it linked to Brooke's show just because I think everybody will be sad. Everybody agrees it's better off to link to Brooke's show for the logarithm or whatever. But I'll recommend checking out the overnight tonight as well. When's your next podcast?
I'll probably release one Sunday.
Okay, I was going to say, you do yours on the weekend too. So on, like you say, whatever your favorite podcast app is, look for, is it Diversity Shoot Podcast?
2A4E Podcast.
Okay.
2A4E.
I push everything to the podcasts, but I barely ever listen to the podcasts. I have been driving more, though. Thanks to Clover, one time he helped me figure out what was making the van run so poorly. So now that the van runs so well, I'm using that opportunity to drive more. I probably should start downloading some podcasts and just to experience what it's like. I end up listening to my satellite radio, but try to listen to some podcasts. I mean, I listen to shows that become podcasts on YouTube. It's because I'm just so used to it. But I'm not used to downloading stuff. Just to do it, I think I'll try downloading some podcasts. And I don't know how you listen to yours. You don't put yours on YouTube, do you?
Not anymore. Not since I don't have a hard drive to download them to.
It'd be a pain in the ass to do it, and it's really no benefit. Usually people take it from YouTube up because it's part of their process. If you're not doing that as the process, it's really no advantage to it.
Well, it's taking it down to the number of listeners, and I'm talking like 30 or 40 sometimes on a good show that gets spread around for some reason. So it's not that many, but some guys can hear it at work. You know what I mean? They can pull it up on their laptop or a workstation and actually play it that way.
Yeah, almost all my feedback is either drivers or people at work that listen to this, during some kind of shift or something. From
one of the secrets, it ain't a secret, it's what Angelo told me. He was like, listen to podcasts at 1.5 speed. You can still understand everything they're saying. It just gets it in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah. And we'd sit here blabbing and going off on tangents and then saying like, so that kind of squishes all that. Yeah.
It condenses it. And until you get to like 1.75, that's when it becomes Alvin and the Chipmunks. But prior to that, it just people speaking at less pause and a slightly higher rate of speed.
When I have to listen to stuff for like back in the day, like training stuff, you'd get on audio once in a while. And this is when I'm thinking I had an MP3 player, because I can remember doing this with my finger. So it was like a switch on an MP3 player. But you should be able to do this with any kind of thing that you're listening to nowadays. But essentially, I would just use it like a throttle. And for the parts that I needed to listen to more, like you say, go to like 1 speed or 1.5, because you almost never need to listen to somebody at 1 speed unless you're really trying to comprehend it or trying to write something down or something. 1.5, like you're saying, is way better. It's just way faster. You spend less of your time listening to it. It's actually kind of cool. It's almost like the Matrix or something. But when somebody is just going off on a tangent or something you already know, for example, like then just flip it up to 1.7 and I had this little button on there where I could kind of push on it and it would go faster, and then I could just throttle it back down when it started getting to where I didn't know what he was saying. I couldn't keep up or something. So anyway, that's a great tip. I don't know if I'll do that in the car though. If I'm listening to it in the car, I'll probably just listen to it at probably 1.5 so I can listen to more, but I'm not messing with it. Mainly, I have to figure out, because I haven't done it yet, I have to figure out how to either hook it up to where it goes through my car speakers or get a external speaker and bring it out there.
Yeah, that external speaker kind of sucks sometimes because it has to, battle road sounds.
Exactly, and it has to recharge. That's what I end up having. It goes dead, and then I'm like, okay, I forget to bring it in the house to recharge, and for whatever reason, I don't think to recharge it while I'm driving and not listening to it. So every time I want to listen to it, it's just out of cycle. And it's just not working. It hasn't worked for me in the past to have a external speaker, but I also haven't gotten into any kind of routine with it. But anyway, we're talking about podcasts. That's a whole other conversation. So I already recommended a couple of channels to check out if you're still interested in watching some stuff. Otherwise, we'll throw a link up here to our commercial up here for the shop. If you're a capitalist and you like what we're doing over here and you want to some financial resources and get something in return, we got you covered. Store over here. We'll see you next week. Thanks again, Tony. And wherever Clover is at, he's probably at a gun shop buying something.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.